Poetics, what's going on, man?
Hey, good morning, Evolution. How you doing today?
Hey, good morning, man. I'm doing pretty good, a little bit better than expected, so that's always nice, man. You ready to go ahead and rock this new episode out?
Yes, sir. Just waiting on you.
Let's go.
What's going on? What's going on?
Hey, good morning. This is a new episode of What's Going On. I am your host, one of your hosts, Evolution. And beside me, I got my sidekick, my brother from another mother, Mr.
Poetics.
Hey, Poetics, man. You doing good today?
Yes, sir. I'm kind of with you, man. A little better than expected. So
Hey, man, nothing wrong with that at all. Nothing wrong with that at all, man. So um, let's go ahead and look at this topic of the day, man. Actually, this is a topic that you kind of brought up, and I kind of just put my little spin on it. But this is what we came up with: unfair treatment in alleged environments, seen yet overlooked and still allowed. What you got for that title, bro?
man, I think the title itself is definitely befitting for
Hmm.
what's getting ready to come.
All right. All right, man. Let me go ahead and highlight the sponsorship. JG's Lounge, TGBTG, Golden Diamond Productions, and VYV. Comes in a little vial. You shake it, you sniff it, and it kind of gets your juices flowing and get you a little bit more active so you can function properly for the day. If you want to support the show and get a little discount on that Vive, uh, Lution 15, Lution 15. All right, now we got that out the way. So, number one on that category, bro, is professional coaches who was first on the cut list. I'm gonna let you
Mm,
go, man. I'm gonna let you go.
well, something that kind of sparked my mind for our topic today, and I wanted to shoot it to Evolution and see what he thought, and he was definitely on board. But I was looking at the results of the previous Super Bowl that was played a couple weeks ago,
hmm
and I noticed that the 49ers defensive coordinator was fired, and it kind of brought something to my recollection.
hmm
And that's the fact that um, more often than not, um, typically, if you're of a darker hue, should I say, you're typically kind of scapegoated or released from your duties, even when it's unjustified.
Man, let me jump in here real quick, and if you got future thoughts, hold on to them, man.
Sure.
Everybody knows, even the people that plan all this stuff, that there's only gonna be one champion. You know what I'm saying? It's gonna be two teams to play for the championship spot. And it's nothing you can do about that. That's just how the game is structured. That's how the game is played. And there can only be one. And in this case, it's the Kansas City Chiefs. Again, got three of them. uh, with that being said, bro, for them to have the spectacular year that they've had, to end up in the Super Bowl, regardless of how the office feels or the people who write the checks feel, man, that's outstanding. You know what I'm saying? That's really literally the second best option you got. You know,
Absolutely.
and for somebody to get canned after that type of result, I mean, I can understand if you don't make the playoffs.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? You're highly anticipated to make the playoffs. Everything lines up. The numbers work, make sense, and you don't make the playoffs. Okay, I'll give you that one. You know what I'm saying? But dude, you make it to the Super Bowl, right? And the first one that gets off like almost right after the game, right?
I mean, it might as well have been.
You got to give kudos to the team you lost to. You know what I'm saying?
Right, right.
They changed up their game. They did what they had to do, and they fought back, and they accomplished their goal. If your team, this is their first time there, right? Am I making this? There was this group right here that was their first time there, or
They played the Chiefs probably about, what was it, 4 maybe 5 years ago in the Super Bowl. But yeah, it was probably only maybe 6 or 7 guys returning from that
right,
from
right,
that team. So yeah, I mean, pretty much it was a pretty
right.
new group of guys. So yeah,
Right. So even with that, man, um, you got a lot of newbies. They new to the game and that excitement and that hype. They're really not mentally prepared if you don't mentally prepare them. You know what I'm saying? It's their first time around, so now they know what to expect. You know what I'm saying? They know how to gauge their enthusiasm. Instead of giving everything they got in the first quarter, they can like pace themselves throughout the 4 quarters. You know what I'm saying? Um, and I think that's what happened, man. They came in really amped, and they just overshot their energetic levels. You know what I'm saying? And then while the Chiefs was just pacing themselves, and then after that, they probably just really didn't have it. And then they had a key person go down. You know what I'm saying? So, what are your thoughts, bro?
man, excellent points. Especially that last point. Having a key person go down.
Mm-hmm.
I'll try to keep this short. uh, that key person was Dre Greenlaw, and we all know what the stats were prior to his exit of the game. I think the
Boy,
Chiefs had maybe 70 total yards of offense, and we were literally nearing halftime.
right.
He's just literally jogging onto the field, and come to find out he tore his Achilles. He couldn't finish that game, and if you pay attention to the rest of that game, the Chiefs went for over 350 yards the remainder of the way. Excuse me.
Uh-huh.
So it was, one of those things where I'm like, the presence of one player is pretty important. But
Absolutely.
I do want to highlight one thing real quick, because you had mentioned statistics,
Uh-huh.
and I thought that was perfect, because
Uh-huh.
I look at the previous Niners defensive coordinators,
Mm-hmm.
and the two previous guys were Robert Saleh, who's now the Jets head coach, and
Okay.
D'Amico Ryans, who's now with the Houston Texans.
Okay.
Both of them were just sensational
Mm-hmm.
defensive coordinators during their Niners tenure.
Mm-hmm.
But looking at Steve Wilks, I noticed that the Niners allow fewer points,
Wow.
fewer yardage, and had more
Wow.
takeaways last season.
Wow.
So for him to be let go, even though they were basically improved in most major categories,
Mm-hmm.
was something interesting. And I do want to highlight, of course, D'Amico Ryans is also of a darker hue as well now with the Houston Texans.
Mm-hmm.
But both of those guys were able to get head coaching positions.
Right.
But you look at Steve Wilks, and he was actually Carolina's interim head coach who turned things around before even coming to San Francisco, and was not offered the position on a full-time basis, even though he clearly had the heartbeat of that team.
Mm-hmm.
Joins the Niners, actually improves that defensive unit despite certain efforts from certain defensive guys that'll remain nameless at this point in time, and was still able to hold Patrick Mahomes, Travis Kelce, and the Chiefs to one touchdown in regulation, which came off of a muff punt.
Right. Right. Right.
So, yeah.
Man, very, very, very strong points, man. Very, very strong points. But I believe that things happen for a reason, even though they were, like you said, not justified. But hopefully he'll end up with a head coaching position as well, with the right team that's going to respect his abilities. You know what I'm saying? You know, and this is professional coaches. That's really strong. You know what I'm saying? But it doesn't just happen in that arena. You know what I'm saying? Go ahead, bro.
Could
Go
I
ahead.
throw just one thing in there before we jump forward?
Sure.
Um, Also, man, looking at the Russell Wilson situation, I don't know if you've kept up with Russell Wilson with the Denver Broncos or not, but of course, last season he ended up being traded from the Seahawks to the Denver Broncos.
Right,
First team that he didn't play for that wasn't where he wasn't a Seahawk.
right.
And last season for them was obviously clearly disappointing.
Hmm.
And it was funny because it seemed like he had pretty much got all of the blame for why they underperformed. But when you look at all the pieces he didn't have, he had a
Hmm.
lot of injuries to his teammates, including
Hmm.
himself,
Hmm.
and was not able to perform at his typical level due to that.
Right.
And so, this season, fast forward, they bring in, the great Sean Payton, who has won a Super Bowl with the Saints some years back with Drew Brees.
Hmm.
And, I noticed that Sean Payton's treatment of Russell Wilson was a little different than how it may have been for a guy like a Drew Brees.
Mm, mm,
He's
mm.
literally, going off on him on the sidelines, going on scathing rants. I mean, you could just kind of see the video. You don't know what was said,
Right,
but
right,
Russell's being blamed for things that was out of Russell's control.
right, right.
And they paid him all this money, and they were trying to force him to sit the bench, even though at the time they still had a chance to actually make the playoffs.
Wow.
And you know, fast forward now, it looks like he'll probably end up in somewhere like a Pittsburgh,
Hmm.
where he'll be under the tutelage of a incredible black coach like Mike Tomlin, who I think will actually appreciate his value a little bit more.
Mike Tomlin, man, he
Hmm.
been there for a minute, haven't he?
Yes, took over after Bill Cowher retired.
I gotta respect that man's longevity. You know what I'm saying?
Yes,
My hats off to him because that's rare. You know what I'm saying? That's rare. I'm glad you brought him up because that's an exception to what we're talking about, right?
absolutely.
But I think if Russell Wilson does end up there, look out.
I mean, and to your point, man, that team is loaded, especially on the defensive side of the ball.
Hmm.
And being that they were eliminated in the wild card round in this year's playoffs, they'll have a halfway decent first round pick. So
Hmm.
that team, bringing Russell Wilson along to probably help guide those troops, and I think Pittsburgh would be really dangerous.
Absolutely, man. And also to top it off, man, put the icing on it with the cherry on top. You're gonna have two brothers working together, as opposed to someone getting yelled at and treated in a manner that he doesn't deserve. Like you said, it was outside of his control, plus the injury factor. You know what I'm saying? Uh, in the right environment, you know, like I said, look out, man. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, I mean,
Obviously Denver was not the right environment for him, which is sad to see and hear. But should he end up there, man, I believe that'll be a strong environment for him, and we will definitely see the results of that.
yes, sir. That's a perfect point. I mean, when we look at his career, just one quick note, it's not like he's never won a Super Bowl. Uh,
Hmm.
he went to two Super Bowls in his first three seasons with
Wow.
Seattle and the Pete Carroll era with the Legion of Boom and all that. Marshawn Lynch
Hmm.
in the backfield, and
Yeah.
actually won one of those as well. So, I mean, it's not like he doesn't know how to win.
Yeah. And in that one play in that one game, that was just that was just awful, man.
It's the worst call in Super Bowl history for a coach, and I'm still fuming over that as a Legion of Boom fan. But
Man, that was the worst thing that could happen, and it did, man. Yeah, so you can't go back and change it, unfortunately, but you can definitely not make that happen in the future, right?
absolutely, run the
All right,
ball, right? Run the ball.
man, look. So are we good on that one?
We good.
All right, man. When it comes to unfair treatment in alleged environments, let's move forward to positions of management, and we're really focusing on corporate execs, etc. The unbalanced precision. I'm sorry, the unbalanced percentage of the majority versus the minority. What you got, bro?
I'm it's a great point because like you said, we can kind of take this thing different ways and
Hmm.
apply it to different facets of life.
Hmm.
But I'm actually just start with football, and I'll let you continue.
Okay. All right. All right.
When you look at positions of management in football, even basketball, of course you have your black GMs and your black directors and so forth.
Hmm.
But it's still more of a rarity than it is something that you kind of would see more common.
Mm.
Even ownership, even in the leagues, you don't
Hmm.
see a lot of black male or female ownership in these
Hmm.
incredible leagues that are
Hmm.
being operated.
Hmm.
So it's kind of one of those things where I look at a guy like a Ozzie Newsome for the Baltimore Ravens. He's
Hmm.
retired now,
Hmm.
but the man drafts Ray Lewis. They win a Super Bowl in 2000, just a couple years after moving to Baltimore,
Hmm.
and you find a way to draft a guy like a Ed Reed. Some years later, you end up
Hmm.
winning another Super Bowl. And I just think the beauty of it is that he was actually allotted time to actually not only hone his craft, but
Hmm.
win multiple championships as a result. So I think instead of giving a 1 or 2 year leash, I think that guys should be able to actually have a tenure to turn things around and to bring glory to a particular franchise.
Absolutely. And what we're talking about here is unfair treatment in alleged environments. See, we had somebody pop on, um, and we're talking about the positions of management with corporate execs, etc., and the unbalanced percentage of the majority versus the minority. Um, so again, welcome to the viewers that are on now, and so thank you for supporting us. And if you're not watching now and later, same difference. Thank you so much for supporting us. Um, so I want to highlight the percentage difference with the majority versus the minority in the positions of management, corporate execs, whatever. Um, Usually, when we see a CEO um, or the person in charge of the company who's running it or who's right next to them, a VP or anything like that, um, traditionally we see a certain type of individual in that position. Um, and you really don't see anyone of a different type of presentation until you go really, really further down in the ranks. You know what I'm saying? Uh, if you see them at all. I mean, that can be a board member. It could be, uh, just about any title that's way up at the top of the chain. Um, and it's unfortunate, but it's been traditionally the setup. What are your thoughts, bro?
Yeah, man. I think that's an excellent point. Just looking at all the dynamics of life itself,
Hmm.
uh, it just appears that, and we know that to just be the reality of people not being, granted those opportunities
Hmm.
the way that other people of other presentations, as you put it,
Hmm.
are often granted those positions. And I think the crazy thing is, the people that we don't see or who might be so far underneath that position
Uh-huh.
are probably in a lot of cases more adequate at being able to operate that position. uh,
Exactly, man. You said it before I got a chance to say it. Um, their resume is probably a lot fatter. Their ability is probably a lot stronger, but for some reason, um, that's looked over in the matter of it's almost expected that certain backgrounds have to be like 10 times as much qualified for a position versus someone of the traditional background has to be someone's son or someone's son-in-law. You feel me? You
Absolutely.
see what I'm saying?
Absolutely.
Um, so someone who basically probably doesn't have the qualifications to run that particular spot, but because of who they are or who they know, they're automatically transitions into this position whether they want it or not, whether they're going to be fully committed to it or not. Uh, but they're definitely going to receive the spoils and benefits of that position. You know what I'm saying? Um, whether they're actively involved or not. What are your thoughts on that, bro?
Oh man, that's a great point, and I want to, let our audience know that we don't necessarily plan what we're going to say when we do these things. We just kind of, we kind of always, just have a nice discussion, and a lot actually comes out of it, even more than what we anticipate. And we appreciate you guys for tuning in. So I'm gonna take it here, man. I'm actually reminded of a TV episode now of
Mhm.
Family Matters
Okay.
when Carl Winslow was a lieutenant and he was in line for sergeant, and
I remember that.
he knew he was just getting ready to grab that position of being sergeant. He had put in his time. He was over 20 years on the force.
Hmm.
We all know the story, and
Yep.
obviously he was so qualified for that position. And then he looked up, and the commissioner's son came from another precinct and
Hmm.
was able to get the sergeant position.
Hmm.
Um, the really interesting dynamic of it is when it came to the actual operation of that position.
Hmm.
Um, the new sergeant had to lean so heavily on Carl that it was him who told the commissioner, "Hey, Carl Winslow ended up being a hero during a situation that involved children at the station and all that."
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
he ends up, finally getting the position, but it literally took the commissioner's son to let him know, "Hey, man, this was all Carl. He's the one that actually came through and saved the day and knew
Hmm.
what to do and how to do it."
Right.
So,
Um, the decision making process of some people, man. Uh, wow. How do I follow that, and how do I elaborate on that? Y- you know, I really don't know the thought process of the decision makers when it comes to putting people in certain positions at that level, but I am aware of how the process works. You know what I'm saying? Usually there's an interview process, and when you already are at that company or in that line of work, they usually look at your resume, see your accomplishments, see how long you've been at that place of business. They look at um, your credibility, basically, and your history as far as being effective in the role that you've been already. And they also process, will you be able to excel or accomplish the main goals of the position that you're applying for. Obviously, in that scenario that you brought up about the Family Matters episode, they didn't consider none of that.
right,
You know
right.
what I mean? So, and you mentioned he was a family member, right? Uh,
Of the commissioner, he was actually his son.
yeah, man. So that kind of really backs up and caps off what I was talking about. How people end up in those premium spots that they are really either not qualified for, they don't want, or they don't deserve.
Right,
You got
right.
anything on that, bro? You got anything on that?
Yeah, man. And that was actually the reason I brought that up. because I'm like, it kind of just, buffered your point even further of,
Mhm.
even though that was, a show on a sitcom, we all know that these are real life situations that occur every single day.
Absolutely, man. And what brings that, what thought jumped in my head is, um, I remember when I was applying for a job, the company that I worked for decided to move to another state, and I just didn't want to pick up and move to that other state. But the company that I applied for, it was a part-time position. But I know me, I know my work ethic. I knew I wasn't gonna be part-time long if I got that position.
Mm-hmm.
Dude, it's a part-time position. I interviewed consecutively back to back with six people. Six people. I don't know why it took six people to interview me for a part-time position, but I had six interviews. It was like a job fair or something like that, and it was a part-time position. And I sat back and watched certain people interview once, maybe twice. You know what I'm saying? And then in I guess certain situations three times. But my thought process at that time was, why six times for me? You know what I'm saying? Um, I can go different directions with this. I'm gonna let you respond to it, but there's also a thing called being overqualified, which I really don't understand that. But what are your thoughts,
Man,
bro? What are your thoughts?
you know what? I was gonna probably say something different, and then you use that last term, overqualified. That's always been, and we're probably gonna see things pretty eye to eye on this one. But that was always a
Uh-huh.
term that I think was literally concocted just to just to keep people from certain presentations from
Man.
being able to actually have the position that they deserve and earned anyway.
Mm.
Because I'm always of the mindset that you always would want, hold on, let's just do common business sense and business knowledge.
Right,
You're
right.
going to want, the person that's most qualified,
Yep.
that's most deserving of any position to
Hmm.
operate that position.
Hmm.
So when you come up with the scenario of, oh, this person is overqualified, well, you probably should not only hire them for that position, but maybe hire them for a position beyond what they were even applying for. Uh,
Yeah, and pay them beyond what you would normally pay someone.
Absolutely, absolutely. So I love that point, man, and just by you using that that word, man, I'm like that was perfect.
Thank you, man. I appreciate it. So now we're gonna move on to the next one, and this is slightly different. Um, Basically, when we're looking at unfair treatment in alleged environments, uh, this is business owners of certain backgrounds. Um, they basically are being overtaken or shut out. Um, what are your thoughts, bro?
You know, again, I want to let everyone know that we don't plan our responses, but I guess this is only suitable being that this is the month of February and the month that is also celebrated as Black History Month. I'm going to make another point here. When I look at this and I think of that, I think of the Tulsa bombings.
Mm,
Um, there was, for those who don't know or who are not aware, there was a really incredible, thriving community of a Black community in Tulsa, Oklahoma, and they literally were kind of separate from their counterparts. They were literally totally independent, but they were thriving, doing incredibly well. And as a result of their own success, other powers that be didn't like that and decided to bomb them and kill innocent people and destroy a community as a result
wow.
of that. But a lot of that had to do with them being who they were and actually having thriving businesses. And just as a side, um, there's a legendary R&B group called the Gap Band, and their name, the GAP,
Mm-hmm.
are actually the three. They're the That's actually an acronym for the three prominent streets in that Tulsa city.
Nice.
So that's where
Very,
they got it, and that's also the title of "You Dropped a Bomb on Me." That song. This is exactly what they were
ah,
referencing.
wow, man, you got some nice information in your comment, man. That was kind of beautifully stated. I'm actually going to go a different direction,
Sure,
but
sure.
that was super impactful for sure, as well as informative. Uh, I'm going to highlight the situation with the black farmers, um,
Yeah,
and
excellent.
the things that we're using as examples. I'm sure other backgrounds have plenty of examples as well, but like Poetic said, we're kind of highlighting, Black history type of stuff, but we don't want to make anybody feel like we're leaving them out, because certainly uh, people of different backgrounds in any background, I'm sure see the effects of what we're talking about. Uh,
Absolutely.
so not too long ago, maybe a couple years now, black farmers were kind of making a voice known that they weren't getting any type of contracts or business, uh, and they certainly had, the backing, as far as they had the land, they had the products, or the machinery to produce, uh, to make money in a farming business, um, which you don't really hear about that a lot often, because black farmers is just kind of rare, but it's actually a good amount of them. But when you look at the percentage uh, factor, they usually get shut out, or they usually get overtaken by bigger farmers, or different types of farmers. I'll just say it like that.
Right.
What are your thoughts, bro?
You know, um, it's always interesting for me because there's there's so much that we're just not privy to, in terms of just of every single solitary situation that goes on within the community.
Hmm.
And whether it's in our local areas or whether it's abroad, a lot of times there are people in their own way always trying to make a difference. And
Hmm.
for you to highlight the black farmer, I think that's huge because you know we all know how they're often boxed out of the same society privileges that other farmers wouldn't have to be boxed out from.
Mm-hmm.
um so it's kind of, I think, interesting that
Yeah.
here we are again, able to bring up another situation where things are just never equal.
Unfortunately, bro. Man, that's a strong statement. It's actually a bit of a bullseye as well, um, and as well as unfortunate, man. So I think we did enough on that one. What you
Yeah,
think? What do you think?
I agree, man. I think I think we're hopefully making some effective headway.
Yeah, absolutely, absolutely. We kind of touching on some things, y'all. So the next deal that we have listed for unfair treatment in alleged environments is loans, grants, etc. Who gets what and how much? Um,
Hmm.
so I'll bring an example that I'm close to, and I'm familiar with, because I was in the vicinity of what was going on. Uh, an individual was applying for a loan two different times, and the first time they were denied, and then the bank was telling them why, and they were like, well, I have this, and this. And they were like, well, why didn't you say that? Because we probably could have used that in the selection process. And they were like, well, we can probably include it now, and see if it changes things. So the wording really changed drastically after that. You know what I'm
Wow.
saying? So in other words, it just didn't get processed again after that, and that information was left off, even though that excuse was given. You know what I'm saying? And then later, after that individual, same individual, applied for a loan, worked on some things and whatnot, uh, and included all those things that was told to them before why they didn't get it before, and they were still denied. What are your thoughts, bro?
Hmm. You know, man, this is cool. The points that you're making, man, it just kind of just continues to easily set me up.
Uh-huh.
And I always kind of think outside of the box. And I'm just gonna pick the subject of TV programming. And
Okay.
I personally always try to watch something that's going to be a little conscious, or have some awareness, especially within my own community in particular.
Hmm.
And I often think of, I don't know if you've ever seen it, man, but there was a series called Queen Sugar.
Yeah, I'm
And
familiar with it, but I haven't watched it.
bro, I have to tell you, it actually is about black farmers,
Ah, okay.
and they're in the South.
Hmm.
Even though it's modern times, it shows from season one all the way to, like, I think it was like, man, six, seven, maybe 8 seasons that it ran.
Wow.
But the show, man, it's kind of funny. I looked at the title in the beginning and I was just like, I don't know.
Uh-huh.
And then, actually, when you watch the first episode,
Hmm.
you understood why they titled it what they titled it.
Oh, okay. Okay.
And it was one of those things where it brought a lot of, I think, self-awareness to, just going on in the community and what
Uh-huh.
black farmers have to deal with,
Uh-huh.
because you're like, man, I had no clue. I mean, you're not really as surprised
Hmm.
because of the history of this country,
Mm.
but you're still like, in this day and time, really?
Yeah, man.
So it kind of goes, hand in hand with the points you've already made, man.
Uh-huh.
And when they were going for bid, loans and grants, exactly what you highlighted, exactly
Right.
what they were dealing with.
Wow.
So it was just kind of like, yeah. Yeah.
Wow.
Uh,
That was
uh,
very, very relevant to my comment. So, yeah, nice point once again, man. You're on fire today. Um, so the next one, I think you just mentioned this previously, but in a small factor, when we're talking about unfair treatment in alleged environments, we are looking at raises, pay, and salaries. Who is at the bottom usually, and who is at the top usually. What are your thoughts, bro?
Man, it's always a incredibly interesting dynamic, because I think that when you just look at the world of, and I'm gonna point out something and then wrap it around and bring it back. When
Okay.
you look at the world of entertainment,
Mm,
you look at the Jay-Z's of the world, the
mm-hmm,
Beyoncé's, the Oprah
mm-hmm,
Winfrey's, the Tyler Perry's, and the list goes on.
uh-huh.
And a lot of people say, well, how are things, not equal when you have these, titans doing exactly what they do?
Uh-huh.
But the point is, they fail to realize, and I think in a lot of cases they really don't realize that these are really abnormalities.
Mm,
These are not. This is not the common norm, or
mm.
the common theme for us. These are, you know one in a million type of scenarios, maybe one in a billion.
Yeah, yeah.
And,
I agree with that 1 in a billion.
right, and it's just, people don't understand that, you'll let's look at it, even a situation, I know we started off with black coaches earlier,
Uh-huh.
so I'm gonna kind of bring this back into play.
Okay.
You look at a guy like Amani Williams, coaches the Detroit Pistons now. We all know what he was able to do. Worked his way up with the Pelicans. Ended up getting a head coaching position there eventually, and did things a certain way. And fast forward, gets the Phoenix Suns job. Now,
Uh-huh.
Phoenix was a laughing stock when he got there, and then they hired this guy, and you fast forward just like 2 to 3 years after his tenure, and they were in the NBA Finals.
Wow.
The beauty for him is that despite not quite being able to win the chip, he ends up, getting one of the most lucrative, if not the most lucrative, coaching contracts in NBA history when he got the Detroit job recently.
Nice.
So a lot of people will point to these things and say, oh, there is no divide, there is no gap. Look at the treatment, look at this. And it's like, well, you have to also understand that there are situations like Adrian Griffin. Adrian Griffin was the former head coach of the Milwaukee Bucks,
Mm-hmm.
who was only fired after a few months into the season.
Mm.
Replaced by Doc Rivers, another black coach. Sure, great. But it's kind of like, again, in more cases than not,
Mm-hmm.
we're not often, allotted the opportunity to actually affect real change. It's almost like they really want you to come in and change the dynamic overnight with the team. And it's kind of like, well, you do need more than 24 hours to,
Man,
to
yeah,
invoke real change. So
I
I just want to
definitely get
highlight
that,
that.
man. Yeah, man. We're not given a fair amount of time to make a difference, nor are we given the resources that are necessary to make that type of a difference. And I want to highlight two terms you used in your response. You
Sure.
said the divide and the gap.
Mm-hmm.
So, off of your examples, let's talk about the divide and the gap. So, you mentioned Jay-Z, Oprah, people like that, Tyler Perry, who are billionaires.
Right.
Uh, so, I'm going to mention Warren Buffett, Bill Gates, Elon Musk, Jeff Bezos, and they're also billionaires. But check this gap out.
Uh-huh.
Out of the people that I mentioned of color, there may be 1 to 3 billion. And the other individuals that I mentioned who are a different color, they are in the hundreds of billions, if not 200s of billions. You know what I'm saying? So you talk about gap out this world. You know what I'm saying? There's a gap right there in your face with percentages that are just undeniable. What are your thoughts, bro?
Dude, I love that. I knew that you would kind of, end up taking it there. I wanted to set you up the way you've been setting me up all day.
Man, slam dunk, reverse, double pump.
Yeah, it's that was beautiful, man, because they'll say, yeah, look at all the, there's some, billionaires of certain presentations. Look at them. And it's just kind of like, yeah, but the billions that, some of us have are not the same billions.
Yeah, you are what do you call it? You're on welfare as a billionaire.
That's what I was going to say.
You know what I'm saying? Go ahead, bro.
You took it right out of my mouth, man. It's like, yeah, you're in the welfare charity line of billionaires compared to the compared to the others. So it's one of those things, man, where here we are again, and I think some people might take offense to the very topic itself,
Mm-hmm.
and I'm just kind of like once again, this is only the points we're proving.
Yeah,
And
absolutely.
we're only seeing what's going on, and we're kind of like doctors just diagnosing the situation.
There
We're
it
not
is.
creating them. We're just seeing what it is, and we're
Mhm.
just diagnosing it.
Boom, man. That's perfect. That is perfect, man. And when you can look at one background and they can literally take 90 to 95% of their wealth, give it away, or just sit it aside, and it still stacks up far more than maybe all the other wealth. Period.
Exactly.
That's a bit of an issue, man, and something that people should really look at and focus on, man. So since we're halfway there, bro, let's just get into one of our segments.
Sure.
Let's see if this pulls up right. There. Let's see. Okay. This segment we like to bring up is called "I Didn't See It," and I didn't heard it all, and then we'll get back into our list of things to talk about today. So this is CBP dog sniffs out something unusual in passenger's luggage. Mummified monkeys, right? but listen to this, man. Listen to this, man. The passenger returning from a visit to the Dominican Republic of Congo reported that the luggage contained dried fish. However, it wasn't. Uh, but an inspection at Boston Logan Airport revealed dead and dehydrated bodies of 4 monkeys. Um, this is going to get you, bro, because this is what got me. The traveler said he brought the monkeys into the U.S. for his own consumption.
Consumption.
I can't, man, I can't make this stuff up, bro. I can't make this stuff up. Yes, man, dry, dehydrated monkeys for his own consumption, man. You got anything for that?
His own consumption. I guess we could start there. So he was gonna really ingest these mummies, these mummified monkeys, and oh my
I don't
goodness,
know what type of protein he was after, but usually things like that are illegal to cross over the border because of some type of possible diseases or whatever. But man, I mean, couldn't you just had a burger, bro?
right. I mean,
I
could
mean,
you actually not go? Could you actually not consume the fish that you actually said was actually in the luggage that wasn't there?
man, some people, I guess, just have to go the distance. And to me, that's going far beyond any distance that you can even try to
Man,
travel when it comes to consumption, bro. Man, you got anything else on that?
man, bro, it's always amazing how you're able to find these stories, bro.
Hey, man, I love research, man. I can find this stuff in like that. But yeah, man, when I seen that, I'm like, this is the one.
Right? It's almost like, man, I would never believe it unless I really heard it. And that's like, I'm like, do I really believe it still? But I understand that it is true. So,
Man, I mean, come on, dog. I know that people have these extreme diets and whatnot, man, but that's a little bit on the edge of insanity.
yeah. Wow.
Man, I didn't see it, and
And
I
I
didn't
done
heard it
heard it
all.
all. Jeez.
Oh my goodness. So we're gonna get back into this, man. Topic of the day is unfair treatment in alleged environments, seen yet overlooked and still allowed. So the next one on the list is who is safe and who needs protection. What are your thoughts on that, bro?
Bro, I actually think of a personal situation you actually discussed. I think it was a couple weeks back.
Mm-hmm.
And it's kind of like you were just simply, again, walking home from work. It was late. And, you're you're pulled over on foot. And you're not bothering a soul, man. You're just trying to get home so you can get some rest, maybe jump in the shower, what have you.
Yeah.
And it's kind of like, it's one of those things where I I don't know if you've ever seen the movie The Hate You Give.
I'm aware of it, but no.
I, that's I recommend. But it's really a self-aware movie, and it's kind of. I think I may have made a mention of this before in a previous
Mhm,
show that we've done, but
mhm,
uh, the father was really big on making sure that his family and his children were equipped with what to do in the event that they were pulled over by law enforcement.
mhm.
And it's kind of funny because when I seen it, I was just kind of like, man, they put my actual thought process in a movie. And because, he's kind of like, when as you get older and you start driving, he's like, 10 and 2, keep it both hands on the wheel, don't do anything sudden. Don't,
Mhm,
don't argue back. When they ask for your driver's license or registration, say,
mhm,
hey, I have to take my hands off the wheel. So
mhm.
it was just kind of one of those things where this is something that has just, gone on for since as long as we could remember. Um, and, you having that personal experience.
Mhm.
Of course, I've been pulled over for a DWB as well. Uh, that's driving while black, to our audience. And, it's a interesting dynamic to say the least.
Man, yeah, it's definitely way up there on that unfair treatment list. But I want to highlight from a different angle, bro.
Sure.
Um, when there was a certain group, not allegedly, but on camera, storming the Capitol building.
Oh Lord, yes.
Uh, if there was any other type of background, bro, you, me, and everybody else know they would not have made it past that front fence. But these people made it all the way inside, climbing walls, busting through windows, inside, walking around, doing whatever they was doing, damaging things, yelling things, presenting certain things. Bro, there is something wrong. There's something very wrong with this country that would allow this to happen, give it prime time footage while it's happening, and not even have a response from the people, security, who are supposed to protect that building. And we know well off, man, throughout history, bro. If there was any other background, come on, man. What are your thoughts?
You know what? I actually have a really short statement for this one, and I think you'll appreciate it.
Okay.
Um, all this in the spirit of trying to make America great again.
Touche. Oh, that's a bullseye and a half, bro. You hit it right in dead center. That was classic, man. I love that. Oh man, you got me. Beautiful, beautifully said. So we're gonna move on to the next one. Nothing else to say about that. Oh man. After all this time, what truths or justices can take place to ensure actual and continual equality, fairness, and treatment for all? What you got, bro?
Man, I actually think of I always take it different ways, man, and I love this about our show.
Uh-huh.
I'm a big music head. I actually think of the OJ song "When the World's at Peace." And you know the lyrics, when the world's at peace, will it still be in one piece?
Right, right.
And but in the song they mention basically, why are we even singing "We Shall Overcome" in the first place? So it's one of those things where when you're just talking about just the natural rights, the
Mm-hmm.
people being treated with dignity and
Mm-hmm.
respect. These are rights that are shouldn't have to be fought for to begin with. It's something
Mhm.
that should just be just like it is for any other group of people.
Mhm.
And it's just one of those things where time and time again, whether it's the, abolitionist movement, whether it's, the civil rights movement,
Mhm.
which are pretty much one and the same, if you ask me.
Mhm.
It's just one of those things where what would it take? I mean, it's just kind of odd, but I always think, of MLK or Malcolm X, and it's kind of like, that same fight they were fighting in the 60s. It's cloaked in a little bit of a different garment now, and it's not as
Mhm.
obvious in certain aspects,
Mhm.
but we're literally still fighting the same exact fight today.
The dynamics have altered.
Hmm.
Surely, I mean, we are in better condition than what we were.
Right.
But I gotta jump back to that percentage factor once again.
Hmm.
You know, it's kind of like a bank giving you interest on your own money when they're making 20 to 30% off of your money interest wise, and they're offering you a 0.5%.
Right.
You know what I'm saying?
Right.
Um, that's kind of like fairness and justice for all, yada yada yada.
Yeah. Yeah. Right.
So it's like, I mean, yeah, today the possibility of someone hanging from a noose is a lot less than what it was back in the 60s, um, and also the possibility of some type of public burning on a cross is the possibility of that is totally and completely less than what it was back in the 60s. However, um, there's things that still occur to this day that we're talking about now, actually, that display that, yeah, we might be a small few percentage points better than the 60s. And in some case, a lot better, 5%. Uh, but nowhere near 100%. What are your thoughts, bro?
Man, bro, I have to commend you on one thing, bro. I love your subtle approach to how you bring these things about, because it's kind of like you set us up so perfectly, and then I'm gonna take it into a whole nother direction.
That's what I do, man. That's our
No, it,
connection,
it-
man. That,
it's
that's how we operate.
it's just great because, again, going off of, here's an experience situation.
Okay.
So my wife, um, she works with she has her friends that she works with,
Mm-hmm.
and one of her friends is actually from, I want to say, it's either Georgia or Mississippi,
Mm-hmm.
and he's over the age of 50, but he revealed to her that when he goes back home,
Mm-hmm.
uh, in certain areas, there is literally, I can't make this up, bro. There are literally colored only, whites only bathrooms, drinking fountains. And then I was like, still? And she said, still. He told her, like, they had went back, I think him and his wife last year, just to visit
Mm.
some relatives.
Wow.
And I was just like, it's the same fight, man. It's the same fight.
Some people just, for some reason beyond my thought process, which is a ridiculously huge thought process at times, I even think in my sleep. It's crazy. Uh, some people just can't let go, man. They can't let go of that bred old time mentality. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
And at this point, it's just passed down through generation to generation. You know what
Absolutely.
I mean? So, I mean, yeah, in those little country areas, I can actually see that being accurate. I mean, it's certain cities or towns you can go to now, and you seem like you went back 5 years in a time machine. You know what I'm saying? So if these
Wow.
people are still in these same small towns with that same mentality, off in the woods somewhere, I mean, I guess the 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 truthness of that statement is real. All I can say is don't go there.
Absolutely,
Stay
man.
the heck away.
Yeah, man. I always say hate is taught and
Mm,
learned. It's
mm.
not an inherent trait.
Boom, man, that's beautiful, man.
So
You,
yeah,
you keep
man. Oh, go ahead.
you keep doing it, man. That's another bullseye.
Uh,
Dead center. You got anything else?
Actually, no.
That was a great way to wrap that one up. So the next thing that we're looking at here, when it comes to unfair treatment in alleged environments, uh, and this is pretty much geared towards everybody, but our focus, right now is Black History Month, so our examples highlight Black history. Uh,
Right.
you know, but we trying to make our reactions broad so that everybody can relate to what we're saying. Uh, and this next one is contracts. When negotiated, who is really being considered to their true value? What you got, bro?
Bro, this is man, I guess I'm on a heater today. Because one of the first things I think about when I think about contracts and how they're not always just or equal
hmm
is look at the group TLC.
Ooh, go, man. I'm waiting to hear this and go. Yeah.
I mean, they're at the Grammys one year. They cleaned house, took like
hmm
I think what 3 or 4, maybe 5 Grammys home,
hmm
and they, one of the one of the reporters was like, man, it must be fantastic living the way that you guys are living, being on top of the world. And the ladies responded like, well, when you actually are a when you know where our money is, please inform us of where it is. And it was just one of
Wow.
those, awakening type of moments, like, what? They sold how
Yeah.
many records? And it was just it was mind boggling.
Yeah.
And
And
I go ahead.
no. Go ahead. I'm good.
And I know that, of course, we all know artists make the bulk of their money on, of course, touring and that sort of thing,
hmm
appearances and so forth. Of course, the royalties from the music is just more of a percentage of their actual total income.
hmm
But it's kind of like, they were getting robbed from every facet,
Yeah.
when you look at their career during that time.
hmm
And, it's just kind of that's one of the things that really come to my mind, like just seeing how a group that's, I think, even to this day, the number 2 selling female group of all time, if I'm not mistaken, just behind the Spice Girls, believe it or not, ladies and gentlemen.
Man,
So
man, look.
so so
Um,
yeah, yeah.
so this is my angle on that and everything you said. Part of that is they weren't represented right. In other words, they probably was excited about getting a record deal and they just signed what was presented to them. Uh,
Absolutely.
however, I think if they were different types of individuals, that type of contract might even not even cross their path. You know what I'm saying? Um, so we as individuals, no matter who or what we are, we have to be mindful of when we before we enter into a contract, we need to know exactly what's stated in that contract. Um, and I'm gonna give an example that was recent to me in podcasting. Uh, when I first got started, there was an individual who presented a contract, and it was nothing that they were saying. When they was talking, it sounded good, but I'm like, yeah, it sounds good, but let me see what the paper says. You know what I'm saying? And then
Absolutely.
when we got the paper and I looked at it, I'm like, that's a no deal because this is absolutely the opposite of what was being stated. So, because I have a little knowledge in that area, uh, I was really able to pinpoint those key terms that were there that just didn't work for me. You know what I'm saying? It might have worked for the individual that wanted us to sign, but
Right.
like you can take that, and burn it, tear it up, throw it in the trash. I don't care, but it ain't coming here, and I ain't signing.
Absolutely.
You know what I mean? So, but yeah, bro, contracts are definitely um, things that we need to pay more attention to prior to signing. What you got, bro?
I wanted to just, tell you, man, big props to you for not allowing yourself to be taken advantage of.
Ah, thank you,
Because,
sir.
a lot of times, man, when you're of a certain presentation,
Hmm.
I think that forgive me for the candidness, but I think that there are people who literally sit back and see how can we take advantage of this person here today through documentation. So it's kind of like for you to be astute in
Hmm.
in your business dealings and understanding,
Hmm.
hey, I can't just sign it just because it's in front of me.
Right,
You're
right,
like,
exactly.
let's look at the language.
Hmm.
Let's look at what the real true dynamics of this contract really say,
Hmm.
who actually really benefits.
Hmm.
If it's not the equal beneficial arrangement that it was presented to me, you had the the wherewithal to understand that I shouldn't sign this.
Absolutely. And you shouldn't feel pressured to sign something either. You know, people recognize your ability when they offer you a contract, first of all. But we people need to know their worth. You know what I'm saying? They need to know what they're worth.
Dang.
And like uh I think it was Master P that said when they offered me this amount, I knew I was worth more than that. You know what I'm saying? They're not gonna offer you what you're worth at first. You know what I'm saying? They're gonna lowball you and
Exactly.
see if you fall for it. But when you know
Right.
your worth, you're like, hey man, no, you gotta redo that and come up a lot. You know what I'm saying? So what are your thoughts, bro?
Perfect, man. It's like my wife's job, and I'm sure you probably have, probably dealt with the same thing at one point or another,
Hmm.
where that first contract when it comes to labor unions, whatever they present you, you have to understand that that is not the best they can do, and that whatever they present you is honestly something that's just like we're going to jack them up in this contract.
Yeah, yeah,
um so they're only hoping that you'll be foolish enough to actually sign it.
man.
And when you're kind of like, when you have a little bit more sense and you're like, nah, yeah, you're gonna have to do better than this. Then
Hmm.
they'll understand, okay, we're not dealing with the dummies that we thought we were dealing with before. So
Man, look.
yeah, man, this is really interesting. That's all I can say.
Uh, all right. So our next one is everyday life, reading between the lines or reading in between the lines. Uh, who is considered first class and who is not?
Ooh, I got something for this.
Okay. Okay.
Okay. So I have a sister-in-law, and she resides in Maryland.
Hmm.
Uh, I'm actually thinking about this is a topic of the dating scene or the dating scenario,
Hmm.
but she told us that in Maryland, uh, I'm trying to think if I should actually use the both backgrounds of people. Yeah, I think I'm gonna do that. I
Okay.
feel it.
Okay.
She said in the Latino community in Maryland that they really apparently look down on black people in terms of when it comes to dating.
Hmm.
Generally speaking, she said that if if I were to I guess pull up on a Latino woman,
Hmm.
they're gonna look at it like the ultimate insult.
Wow.
Um, and I kind of just think of that, and I'm like, this is a really really interesting dynamic because when you look at society itself,
Hmm.
when you look at just the projection and how I mentioned the word programming earlier,
Hmm.
you're
Hmm.
able to see how just think about it this way. in 1962, and I'm just throwing a year out there.
Right.
In 1962, or let's go even before that, when you look at a situation like a Emmett Till, where, he allegedly whistled at a woman who didn't look like him and was beaten beyond recognition. Now we fast forward to 2024, and the irony is you can't see an advertisement that doesn't involve a mixed relationship.
Man.
So I think that is really interesting. I often say, why is that? But I'm just going to leave it at, it wasn't that long ago where, you whistling at someone who was thought to be superior to you, cost you your life. And now you're able to procreate and marry these, same people without issue. What are your thoughts, bro?
I won't say without issue, because anytime you procreate and marry someone, there's going to be some issues here and there, everywhere, somewhat, somehow. Just definitely on a different scale.
Right.
I can't really speak about Maryland because I don't know what the brother situation is in Maryland.
Man, I was like shocked when she told me, but this is what I was told,
But I will say that going back to my percentage points, there might have been a few bad apples out there, you know what I'm saying, in Maryland. They caused the perception to be that way.
Right.
But I will also say that a higher percentage is not that way. You know what I'm saying? You can't really take a few examples of situations and generalize it through the whole community. You know what I'm saying? It's some really good brothers out there, regardless of who they hollering at, and I'm sure it's some really good Latino women out there who deserve to be hollered at. You know what I'm saying?
Absolutely.
So with that being said, man, we just shouldn't do that as people. Everybody's different. Yeah, you got some knuckleheads out there, and I think every background can say that. And honestly, and say that honestly, but when you look at the percentage of the knuckleheads versus the people that got a good strong head on their shoulders and really mean well and really know how to treat a woman regardless of what her background is, you can't just look at everybody and put them in that same type of mentality, because they're just clearly not. You know what I'm saying? What you got, bro?
I love that point you just made. I'll often say, it kind of reminds me, man, of a saying that I actually have, where, people have this ideology that, their perception is the reality of a situation. And I'm of the mindset is, what is your perception or what you perceive things to be is not always the truth or the reality of a situation in general.
Right.
So, just going off of that and going off of what you just said, it goes in perfect alignment. You just can't classify or categorize a situation based on isolated incidents.
Boom. Oh man, you're on fire today, bro. I love it. So our next example here, and our final example before we get into our Black History question, is personal experiences. What have you noticed, witnessed, or gone through, bro, when it comes to unfair treatment or unfair things of that nature?
Man, geez, what situation would I like to highlight, right?
Yeah.
Excuse me. I would definitely say, man, I like to put thought into certain things.
Of course.
Okay, I'll take it here. So I think of, Dr. King and Malcolm X, I always like to talk about them
Mm-hmm.
because people often associate them almost in like a duality type of scenario where one is on one side of the spectrum and the other is on the other side of the spectrum.
Uh-huh.
But, you know, what we know about them in short is that MLK was more about, you know, fighting a good fight, hanging tough, basically beat them at their own game. And eventually the change that we want to see will naturally take place and run its course.
Mm-hmm.
MLK was more of like, what we want, we're going to take by any means necessary because these are the natural things that we should have had from day one.
Mm. Okay.
I highlight them because I want to highlight something about them
Okay.
that most people are not privy to.
Mm-hmm.
Towards the end of both of their lives, right?
Mm-hmm.
They both ended up, I'm not going to say completely switching their ideologies, but they both ended up having other certain takes, or basically, in short, being able to see the other's point of view to the point to where they were starting to think like the other person in certain regards.
Mm.
So what I'm saying is Malcolm X had hit a point where he was like, you know, all this time I'm preaching this one thing, but when I go to Mecca, I see Muslim and Islamic people of all nationalities and backgrounds.
Mm-hmm.
And it was an eye opener to him that made him see things differently, especially with what he was dealing with at the time with his own
Mm-hmm.
people.
Right. Right.
MLK, on the other hand, was, you know, there are kind of like, I'll just say, I don't want to say hidden interviews, but I'm going to say interviews that are not as publicized,
Uh-huh.
where, you know, he's speaking of, you know, his language is a little different, where he's saying, I'm tired of fighting the good fight. You know, I'm tired of, you know, us trying to fight for the natural liberties and things that we should have always had from the jump, from the beginning.
Mm-hmm.
And I think this was, you know, due to, you know, the, you know, situations like Medgar Evers,
Mm-hmm.
you know,
Mm-hmm.
situations where other prominent leaders were, you know, being assassinated.
Mm-hmm.
And, you know, he, you know, at some point, everyone has a breaking point, you know, where it's kind of like everything I'm doing, I know is for the greater good. And I'm
Mm-hmm.
keeping my mind on that. But it's kind of like at the same time, you're only human.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
And, you know, so just looking at I would say the witness account of those interviews, of that footage,
Mm-hmm.
you know, testimonies that they've made and said and stated.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, man, I often think, you know, when will the change, you know, come into fruition that we've always wanted to see? I know that, you know, Michael Jackson said it starts kind of with the man in the mirror.
Yeah. Yeah.
So
Yeah.
I know that that's where we can all start, but it's kind of like, you know, there's been a lot of people looking in the mirror trying to be a change for a long time.
And it's really long overdue.
Absolutely.
Great points, man. Great points. I'm gonna go a different direction as I usually do.
I know you would.
I'm gonna highlight George Washington Carver.
Okay.
So this is an individual who dealt with agriculture or whatnot, and he was given an item because nobody wanted it and they didn't think anything could come from it, right?
Absolutely.
So basically, he went to work and he started to discover not just one or two, but many things behind this one item. And for those of you who aren't familiar with that item or George Washington Carver, it's the peanut. He was given the peanut freely, you know, because nobody thought that the peanut had any value. Um, see how I did that?
I love it. I love it, man. I love it.
So the peanut actually has so much value because of George Washington Carver and all the things, the many things that he found that the peanut was capable of doing. What are your thoughts, bro?
Dude, that was beautiful because he, like you said, you're talking about an item that no one thought could do anything beyond one or two things, right?
Yeah, yeah.
And he comes up with I'm not exaggerating, people. He comes up with hundreds
Mm-hmm.
of uses for this item for the peanut,
Mm-hmm.
and it's just kind of it's just a testament of the brilliance of people with certain presentations, man. It allows. I'll always say this, man, and I've been saying this evolution for probably almost as long as you've known me, but definitely more in recent years.
Uh-huh.
You're there's people have a way of just being able to shock you, you know. There's a way, we have people are always taught to think of themselves in a box is around it, whatever ideology or idea you have.
Mm-hmm.
There's your idea and there's a box, and you better not step outside of that box, right?
Right.
But my saying is, there is no box.
Mm-hmm.
So when you understand that you have no real true limitations,
Mm-hmm.
you're able to come up with hundreds of ways to use the peanut.
Or anything else. You know what I'm saying?
Right,
Yeah,
right.
you realize that there's no boundaries or no limits. So your mind really travels the distance and beyond where most people don't even get to that level or use their thought process to have that amount or a very small percentage, since I've been highlighting percentages today with relevance. You know what I'm saying?
Absolutely,
Uh,
absolutely.
so you got anything else, or are we going to move on to
Yeah.
the Black History question?
Yes, just one little last thing.
Okay.
You mentioned there's certain trigger words today that's really getting me.
Uh-huh.
So again, you mentioned the word percentage,
Yeah.
and I often think of a statement that I've heard probably since the 90s now, but I think it's actually probably more relevant today than it even was then, and it's not used commonly,
Uh-huh.
but it is so, I think, factual. Um, we as people, in the average person that is,
Uh-huh.
tend to only use 10% of our mental capacity.
Mm.
So I think about that for a second, right?
Mm-hmm.
And I'm like, what if we were able to use 100%? Like in the movie Lucy, or something like that. Where it's kind of like what really would happen if we actually unlocked the full usage of what's in here.
Actually, bro, I got a comment on that.
Sure.
Actually, I might surprise you with this one.
Okay.
The truth of it is, that's something that just somebody said.
Uh-huh.
We actually use 100% of our thought process. However, it's how we use it that makes it seem like it's only 10%.
Interesting.
Yeah.
I like that.
Yeah. We limit ourselves so ridiculously, dude. I mean, it's even in our speech pattern when we talk, most of us.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? I don't think I can do that, or I'm not able to do this, or that's not for me. You know what I'm saying? That's doing too much. These catchphrases that have been created or come up, it's just been accepted as everyday wording now, and you
Right.
really have to be cautious of how you think and what you say, because it really matters a lot more than people think. You know what I'm saying? So
Absolutely.
when you stand next to a motivational speaker and they're like, anything is possible, I can do anything, this is what I'm doing now, but this is what I'm planning to do later, this is in the works, you don't see it, you don't understand it, but it's happening, but you won't really get the trueness of it until it actually happens. But when it actually happens, it's new to you, but it's old to me. I'm working on the next
thing.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
Right.
So and then you stand next to somebody in the street who just stands on the street corner all day and just watches traffic goes by, and all you're getting from them is like, man, life sucks. You know what I'm saying? This is messed up. We ain't got nothing. We ain't gonna be nothing. You know what I'm saying? So you gotta surround yourself with brilliance. You have to consider yourself brilliant. and you have to look at things in the shape and form of brilliance. What you got, bro?
I love that, bro. That was an excellent rebuttal, man, because yeah, I mean, a lot of times, again, being isolated in whatever box you might think you should be isolated in.
Hmm.
And it's like you said, I like the example of the person standing on the street corner watching traffic pass them.
Uh-huh.
That's kind of indicative of life itself for them.
Yeah.
That person with that mentality is literally watching life pass them by.
Boom, man.
You're
You,
not an
you,
active participant of life. You're just someone who is a passenger.
boom, man. You killing it with them bullseyes today, man. Third one, third one. So, all right, we're gonna move on to our Black History question that I personally designed for my homeboy Poetics. And here it is. You have a time machine program. You can only use it once. You can input one thing tomorrow that will impact Black history's future forever. What would you do? What would you input and why?
Wow. Let me ask you this question before I answer this question.
Okay.
I can go backwards in history and I can go forward also, correct? Or is it just I can only go backwards?
No, no. You can only put this, you can only input this tomorrow.
Okay.
Oh, wait. Okay, I see what your question is.
Uh-huh.
Yeah. Whatever yeah. You
Okay.
can go either way.
Gotcha.
Mhm.
Okay. I think I'm gonna go past tense here.
Okay.
Wow. A lot of times, even though we do have outlines of this thing, a lot of
Mhm.
times, man, I am always coming up with what I'm gonna say on the spur of the moment because I like the organic way of how I'm really feeling in the heat of the moment.
Okay. Okay.
Because the heat of the moment for me is typically probably what it is anyway.
All right.
So I read this question when you sent this to me, man, and
Uh-huh.
this is an incredible question.
Thank you.
Because there are so many things I like to do, but again, there's the stigma that I can only do it once.
Yep. Yep.
Oh man, so I'm gonna go with. I mean, there's just so many different thoughts
I know.
going on in my mind, bro.
Uh-huh.
I'm gonna say I would go back. I would actually go back and figure out, and then whatever time this is now. So I don't know the exact date,
Mm-hmm.
but I'm gonna present something to you, and I don't know what your thoughts are
Okay.
or how you'll even take it.
Uh-huh.
I think you'll appreciate it,
All
but
right.
we've never talked about this.
Okay.
So, there's two different ideologies in play right now
Mm-hmm.
in the Black community.
Mm-hmm.
It's in a certain aspect is, are we African? Have we come from, the motherland of Africa?
Mm-hmm.
Or are we indigenous to America? Have we always been here for thousands and thousands and thousands and thousands of years?
Mm-hmm.
Um, for me, I would actually just, and this is actually a little bit more minuscule,
Mm-hmm.
but I would actually just love to go back to actually see
Mm.
when we actually truly first arrived here, just so I knew that I could put it that put it to bed. When is it that we were actually here? I mean, I do know one thing: we were not always slaves, and we were definitely not brought here in whatever they call the first slave ship.
Mm-hmm.
I know we have been here for a very long time. I just would love to know the when, because being able to go back and actually see when we
Mm-hmm.
were actually here, whether it's the Olmecs, for those, I'm diving off a little deep into this one, uh, or whether it's of any other ancient people of real significance.
Mm-hmm.
it's something that's been heavy on me for a while now.
Okay.
When were we first here?
Mm-hmm.
Did we actually migrate from Africa and just have been here for forever, or were we always indigenous to this place called America?
Hmm.
So I would just love to actually see the when, because then I could actually teach it as total truth of knowing the when and whereabouts of when this took place, as opposed to speculating of when we were here. So that's
Got
what
it,
it is for
man.
me.
That's pretty interesting. Of course, my answer is a little bit different.
Of course, of
Um,
course, of
when
course.
I came up with this question, bro, I thought about it for about 5 minutes, and then I pondered it for about 30 minutes, and then I went to sleep on it. The first part of this was the 5 minutes, and the second part of this was when I went to sleep on it. All right, it's what I had when I woke up. So for this question, you have time. You have a time machine program. You can only use it once. You can input one thing tomorrow that will impact Black history's future forever. This is what I got. I would input an irrefutable document in the history books of Congress that reverts full ownership of all land and all of its resources back to Black people, with an option to buy immediately at 3 times its worth. Um, so what? So yeah. You see where I'm going with this. So, in other words, all land and its resources will be Black people's, and the people that are occupying that land have the option immediately to buy it back at 3 times of what its worth is. Um, and my why for that is
Wow.
I knew I was gonna get you. I knew I was gonna get you. So my why is so that everyone can see and realize the true nature of our value, even us. What are your thoughts? And I got more because that's the 5 minutes. I'm gonna give you what I slept on in a second. What are your thoughts on that, bro?
My thoughts on in an immediate response. It's funny. I'm going to actually turn this, and I'm going to actually say that even though it's different,
Mm-hmm.
it's presented in a different way, and
Mm-hmm.
it's definitely in the lines of reparations that are obviously long overdue.
Mm-hmm.
It kind of actually in my mind, bro, almost makes me think to the point that I made earlier with mine.
Yeah.
Us being here for as long as we've been here, being
Mm-hmm.
native to the land,
Uh-huh.
and then it being taken and distributed the way that they wanted to do with it. And
Mm-hmm.
it's kind of like you coming up with this idea. That's yeah. I'm actually I might be at a loss for words, man, but I love it.
Hey, man, I'm glad to hear that.
Because I think
And
that's the brilliance you mentioned in the previous segment right there at work.
thank you, sir. I appreciate that wholeheartedly. But even when I came up with this, bro, I felt like something was missing.
Okay.
And it covers a lot, bro. It covers a lot.
Yeah.
Uh, and but this is what I slept on. And this is how my brain works, bro. I was sleeping, but this is what I woke up with. Within that document, that irrefutable document that is, this input in Congress, there is a no beef clause. So, in the no beef clause, we as a people can't talk negative about one another. We can't display negativity towards one another, any acts towards one another. Uh, we can't do anything that makes us look negative. Uh, we can't do anything bad to anyone else. And even the lawmakers and journalists have to comply. Uh, So basically, what that means is, so if you're like on a Wild and Out episode in the Wild style, yes, you can go hard and tell your jokes in competition for entertainment. Um, if you have a role as an actor, yes, you can portray that role that displays negativity or whatnot. But anything outside of that, anything that's derogatory to our character or us as individuals or anybody else in different backgrounds, no tripping with people and acting fool, acting ignorant. You have to keep that character. And if you do those things that you said that you can't do, then you will lose that benefit of profiting from that sale of the land or owning that land. Uh, what are your thoughts, bro?
Wow. This is so impactful for me personally
Mm-hmm.
because honestly, this is something that should really be presented to Congress. Um, dude, if when you think about it, we all, the subject of reparations has been always, something that's been brought up here and there and has gained traction in different times in, history.
Mm-hmm.
But it's kind of like, no matter when or who brings it up, you notice that of any people who've ever been wronged by America, they've all been reparated to some extent, except
Mm-hmm.
for
Yeah.
us. So it's one of those things, man, where not only should this be presented to Congress, but this should actually become a real reality in a very near future. That is like my real honest response, man, to what you just came up with.
Wow, man, thanks. I appreciate it. But again, that's how my mind works. Um, I can come up with stuff like this all day. Um, and I really like presenting it on this podcast, and hopefully people can benefit from it and understand the different things that we do highlight is for the better benefit of humanity. You know what I'm saying?
Absolutely.
Not just the black community. So
Right.
when I can come up with well, this is the thing. When I can come up with something like this at my level, and people are voted into these positions in the White House, in Congress, so on and so forth, and the things that they come up with, bro, is they're just clearly not for the betterment of humanity. You know what I'm saying?
Absolutely.
They are clearly to continue this crap setup uh, to keep people where they are or hold them back. And it's designed for a selective few to progress. Um, but if I had a time machine program, yes, this is the change that I will make that will hopefully cover the majority of issues that have been hunting us since the beginning of time. What are your thoughts, bro?
Yeah, man. Absolutely, man. It's kind of like, piggybacking off the points you made, where obviously the people who are in position to actually make a difference are not doing much. Hold on, let me reword that. They're doing a great deal, but the people that they're attempting to benefit is the people who've always benefited.
Mm,
So it's that, those terms we used earlier, the gap and the divide.
mhm.
It's all about not only maintaining what that gap, is currently, but they're trying to further enlarge that gap.
Man.
And yeah, man, it's interesting how just you and I, like you said, at our positions right now, can come
Uh-huh.
up with the things we're coming up with, but the people who are actually compensated to come up with things that to actually better the world and the country. Yeah, uh, I think we're obviously on to something.
Yes,
And
absolutely. Absolutely.
yeah, bro, yeah, you got me on that one, man. I love that. Yeah, I wasn't ready for it, and I'm happy I wasn't ready for it.
Got it. But hopefully the people that hear this, maybe the word can spread, and you know,
You never know,
everyone can
right?
figure it out and maybe come together. And one day soon, hopefully, sooner than later for sure, we can design some things and come up with some things and implement some things that will truly make a difference in equality, uh, fairness, and justice for all, man. That's what I got.
There is nothing else I need to add, man. That was perfect.
All right, man. Ladies and gentlemen, that's what's going on. I am Evolution, and this is my main man on the side, Mr. Poetics. And that's what we got for today. Tune in weekly. We do this once a week, usually Saturday mornings at 7 a.m. or 8 a.m. And we're going to have some more fire for you to warm your to warm your atmosphere. How's that?
Absolutely, man. Absolutely. Thank you, everybody, for tuning in. We definitely appreciate you, and please continue to support us, man. We love you.
Absolutely, man. Thanks again for myself. We appreciate you, the ones that view us and stick with us while we're live, and the ones that view us and check us out after we're recording this out in the airwaves. So, y'all take care of yourselves, be good, and don't limit yourself. There's no limit on us. You know what I'm saying? We have the power to change things, create things, and do things. How's that?
Absolutely.
All right, y'all take care.
Peace.
Peace.